For our latest installment of Is It Going to Zero, we are going to take a look at UPS, which has been just an absolute dog after that big run up during COVID. It has just been absolutely slaughtered. FedEx is just completely eating their lunch. There's concerns about Amazon, and so it's probably going to zero. But in case it doesn't, it's at an area of interest for me. We can see, on this quarterly chart that, had this range of consolidation, roughly 87.69 to 124.69-ish. And saw that nice breakout in 2020. So it's coming in for a back test now. So that's the first thing that catches my eye, when looking at it. Is okay, well, let's see how it behaves here at this back test. On this next chart, this is yearly volume profiles. And so you can see, no surprise, values just dragging lower and lower on this thing. Been an absolute dog. And it did dip into this box. This was an open gap. It filled this open gap and tested just a little bit lower. This purple line here is just, the low here year to date. But you can see, it's back testing this box, this multi-year volume balance, and so far has been somewhat responsive. And, the one thing that I look at is, this year to date volume point of control moving down here could be, what I call a buyer's VPOC. And to me, that could suggest, if we obviously break through there and reverse higher, that this was some reaccumulation in here. And so we'll drill into shorter time frames and take a look and see if there's anything else of interest. So here I've got a 30-minute chart with some volume profiles in the last few weeks, and I just kind of wanted to take a zoomed out look. You can see, the dip was bought in August, and they were somewhat rewarded. They got a nice rally off of that and started to get some puke in December, right? So maybe some tax loss selling, or maybe everybody just knows that it's going to zero. And so let's get back into the week of December 16th, where things really kind of escalated. And the selling started before FOMC. So, it was already seeing some pretty emotional selling before FOMC, right? And it's almost like FOMC was like the capitulation moment to me. It looks a lot like the charts of a lot of other stocks on that FOMC day. But to me, we had, this prior area from the week of December 2nd, and that was lost, and then it was just an absolute puke fest. And you could just see from the profile, like it was very, very emotional selling. And we come in here to this low on Thursday. We put in a poor low. We get the weekly VPOC shifts down. So again, this may be what I would call a buyer's VPOC, and kind of looks like it as of now, given the way price responded. And this poor low that it put in on Thursday. So we've got equal lows down here on Thursday, and it came in on that Friday, and that spot was reactive again. So it just suggests to me that sellers were just getting a little bit tired, right? And then B period, so that's 10 a.m. to 10:30, we get this move down that is aggressively reversed. Now, sure, the market was rallying pretty hard, but really the rest of the market was kind of rallying before that, actually. So I like the fact that it was sold, whereas the rest of the market, it opened and traded a little bit lower, but not really. It was a pretty strong 30-minute period. I think yes was like a doji or something, at least for this first 30-minute, and then it just ripped. So some decent excess on this low, and then an aggressive rally with, got single prints, at least in this period. They were later on filled in, but to me, that's okay. And again, the rest of the market was rallying. So, it could be some false signal, but to me, seeing all of this together, seeing all of this puke, sellers getting fatigued, excess low, strong reversal. And, the other thing that I would point to is through this reversal. So see this 3-bar down here, down, doji, down. So that's a 3-bar down, and that's generally going to act as a bit of resistance on the way back through, and it's just kind of ripped right through on the way up. And so just, again, another indication to me that maybe sellers are a little bit done. Coming into this past week, we get another poor low on Monday, and then on, let's see, what is this, Friday? This is kind of gross. So like normally you don't like to see poor lows, and they can be indicative that, downside is not complete, but it also can indicate that, sellers are just tired. And, that sort of fits with the story here. Just sellers, we get massive puke. They're kind of done. We get this reversal. Sellers are tired. And, maybe it's time to see some strength. And you can see this bid coming in, and, the poor lows sitting right about at that 12.2 weekly low. So we're just dipping just below that. So, the story that it's telling me is that, maybe sellers have had enough. They have puked what they are going to puke. And now it's time to see, if fresh buyers have truly stepped in and they're ready to drive price higher. Now, remember, on the yearly profile, we had VPOC shift down here and sellers have not made much progress yet, anyways, into this range, into this box range. Now, the risk here is that if it does proceed further down into this box, I mean, it could get sucked. I mean, it could get sucked all the way back down. I mean, we could see 80s. That's not off the table, right? So, there is risk here. And so to me, for a trade, it's very defined risk. I would not be personally, at least, buying like short dated calls on a completely broken chart. One could consider longer dated calls, but to me, I'm looking to play commons and maybe even DCA into some. I'll probably take a starter piece and then just add a DCA into it. It's got a 5% yield at these prices, which is not bad. And then to me, the trade, especially if I'm taking leverage with options, would come after a reversal. And so to me, if this is a buyer's VPOC and patient buyers and strong hands have been loading in here all year, basically, well, at least the second half of the year, and the weaker hands just got rugged, then to me, this should fire back over the spot and we should see a nice reversal. And maybe we come up here in the 130s at least. And the last thing, that I'll add is that it might need to take out this year's lows in 2025. And sometimes that can actually help just from a price action perspective. You can get a look below and fail year that ends up showing strength for the rest of the year. Otherwise, it's going to open up as an inside year, which is somewhat indeterminate. But to me, I see enough about this chart that interests me that I'm willing to take a shot, at least with, an unleveraged trade, hold, kind of a core investment piece, and then, trade around it as appropriate. So we'll see. We'll have some additional levels. You can, mark some of these down if you like. We'll have some additional levels in a newsletter and in the room. But, to me, clearly, we're going to have to get back, at least above here. We have to take out last week's high. It's an inside week. So, whichever way this week breaks is, the way that it's going to go. If we break last week's low, we're probably going to get sucked back into here and retest, the preceding week's low. And if we break last week's high, with continuation, then, getting up in here, to me, is key. And we could see a nice rotation up to 130. And so we'll definitely be on watch for, a look above and fail week. This is a potentially very stiff spot right here. And we could be, on watch for a look below and fail week as well, would be just, a couple of long setups to take a trade off of. But for me, again, I'm just going to take a core position and some commons as a bit of an investment and trade around that. If I need to, buy puts or sell short puts or sell calls or buy calls when appropriate, I can do that around the core piece, and we can have trades on or off really for 2025. So I hope, if anything, some of my insights into why I'm interested in this name, even though it is just completely busted. But from a technical perspective, the why, I hope you at least enjoyed that. Whether or not you benefit from this as an investment or a trade, we'll see. We'll see how it acts. And again, I will not be employing leverage on this trade just yet. I'll just hold this core investment piece, and then we'll see how it plays out and add leverage if and when appropriate.